The Astros have played in 4 World Series, have 7 consecutive ALCS appearances, and 2 championships. But this year, they're one of the worst teams in the AL, 10 games below 500. And it seems the Astros Dynasty is over. But with the top 3 payroll, spending $249 million, they should be winning. Less than a year ago, they were 1 game away from a World Series berth. 2 years ago, they won the World Series. But how did they crumble? What happened?
The Houston Astros stink.
They stink, and the dynasty is in jeopardy, but it isn't the first time that it's been in jeopardy either. The 2017 World Series Astros would win 100 games and had the regular season MVP. And in 2019, they went to another World Series. But 1 year later in 2020, this is when many people began to consider the Astros dynasty
illegitimate.
Why? Because the 2017 Astros were cheaters. They were stealing their opponent's signs, not only in the regular season, but also in the postseason. And in 2018, they were cheating again, this time only in the regular season. And when they were exposed, the Astros became the villains of baseball.
Are you gonna give the trophy back?
Guessing that's an inflatable trash can that has been shared on the field.
That championship trophy that's in Houston is bogus. They're not champions.
And in 2024, an Astros player just got caught cheating again, but we'll get back to him later. The worst part about their first cheating scandal is the way that the Astros would respond. And while the owner of the team would come clean, he would also deny that the cheating altered anything. This would draw backlash from a ton of fans and faces across baseball. We've also seen organizations like the New York Yankees fire back at Houston's silly comments, with general manager Brian Cashman saying that the only thing that stopped us in 2017 was something that was so illegal and horrific. So now that their reputation was damaged forever, it also meant that the dynasty would be damaged forever as well. But after the main cheaters began leaving, such as the GM and manager being fired, the Astros had a serious chance to redeem themselves. And this would begin their second era of the dynasty out of 3. This one was called the redeemable part of their dynasty, led by executive Jeff Click, who would later turn into arguably the most underappreciated man in sports. However, in his first season in charge, the team would still be very conflicting. It was the 2020 COVID season, meaning that there were no fans to heckle the players. But don't worry, they do that later in 2021. The other key factor about the 2020 COVID season was that there were only 60 games that were being played for each team. And in that year, Houston would sneak into the playoffs with a negative record and go to the ALCS, meaning they were only a few games away from a World Series. Fans didn't believe that the Astros should have been playing in the 2020 season, let alone a playoff berth with a negative record, becoming only the 3rd team in MLB history to make the playoffs with more losses than wins. While they would lose in the ALCS, they were still only 1 game away from a World Series. And headed into 2021, the team would lose another core member of their team, an outfielder George Springer. So was the dynasty on the verge of failing? To succeed, they were going to need great development. They've been better than almost every team in MLB at developing prospects. And in 2021, they were building up Kyle Tucker to replace George Springer. And in the rotation, they had developed Luis Garcia into being one of the best rookie pitchers in MLB. They seemed so likable on the field, but don't get me wrong, fans did not forget about what they did. The MLB was completely rooting against them, and the team had major question marks and were getting older. How would the Astros rebound when Altuve, Gurriel, and Michael Brantley were now all entering their 30s, and their star third baseman Alex Bregman was coming off of an underwhelming 2020? How would they rebound when a potential superstar outfielder Yordan Alvarez was coming off of 2 knee surgeries? And on top of that, they didn't have their best pitcher Justin Verlander due to a season-ending injury. But for the cherry on top of all of it was that one of their best players, shortstop Carlos Correa, was in the final year of his deal, on the verge of leaving Houston.
I feel like it will take the right deal. I'm not going to sell myself short, but at the same time, I know what I'm worth.
Correa did not disappoint in 2021, with an .850 OPS and 26 homers. He had the best glove in baseball, winning the Platinum Glove Award, giving him momentum for free agency. But first, the Astros had a playoff run to handle with 2 main goals on their mind. With a chip on their shoulder, their first goal was to show the world that they can win without cheating. They were coming off of a 95-win season, which was less than their 2019 World Series team had, and their 2017 World Series team. However, the 2021 team still had many achievements, such as a top offense in baseball, one of the best managers, and they were the AL West champions. The playoffs, on the other hand, would be a completely different animal, facing the loaded 2021 White Sox in the divisional round, a team that had many stars, and I also made a video on them recently, so go check it out to learn more. But ultimately, the Astros dominated nearly all series long, scoring 31 runs in 4 total games. And after defeating them, they were moving on to Boston in the ALCS, one series away from the World Series, the grand prize of all. But first, they had to beat this Red Sox team, another team that was facing adversity all year long and would not give up without a fight. But the Astros pitching might have been too tough to handle, as they set the record for the most strikeouts in an ALCS, striking out Boston 72 times in 6 games. With the Astros winning this series, they had one goal left: win the World Series in 2021. But only if it was that easy. With no Verlander already, the pitching staff was already cut short, and it was only going to get worse. They were facing one of the best offenses in baseball, the 2021 Braves, which I also made a video on them recently, so go check that out. That Braves team specifically was incredible at scoring runs, meaning that the Astros pitching staff had a lot of work to do, especially when one of the best pitchers in the rotation, Lance McCullers, would go down with a forearm injury right before the World Series, leading to the Braves offense dominating and defeating Houston in the World Series. Whether it was a blown lead, the offense getting shut out, or the pitching failing, the Astros were not good enough, and they were only supposed to be getting worse. Carlos Correa would hire agent Scott Boras heading into free agency. Boras has always been known as the toughest agent in MLB, getting his players, his clients, the most money possible, and that's exactly what Correa wanted. The Astros had already offered a 5-year, $160 million deal that Correa would ultimately decline. He wanted paid top dollar money, but the Astros were unwilling to re-sign him. He would be the second major part of their core to leave, which would make things so much harder. But in 2022, the team had faith in a new shortstop, a prospect by the name of Jeremy Pena, who at 24 years old had a top glove and was the #1 prospect in the Astros system. As he came up in 2022 is really when this era of the dynasty would be born. The core was now Pena, Tucker, Alvarez, Altuve, and Bregman. Pena, being the youngest guy of the bunch, would impress very early on, winning his first Gold Glove in his first season. The team also got back veteran Justin Verlander, which would only make them better, winning 106 games, winning the division, and had the most wins in the AL. This was arguably their best dynasty team ever, with one of the best postseason performances ever as well, sweeping the Mariners in the divisional round and then sweeping the Yankees in the ALCS, much attributed to the success of rookie shortstop Jeremy Pena, as he would go 6 for 17, hitting 2 home runs and 2 doubles in the ALCS, winning the MVP of that series. But yet again, it would be another tough matchup to win the championship. The Astros were facing the Phillies, a team that was stacked and had more momentum than anyone. With stars like Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler in the rotation, it was not going to be easy. But the Astros were fighting for the label of winning a World Series without cheating. But it just didn't go like that. After 3 games, the Phillies would lead the series 2-1. But in typical Astros fashion, they would come back and win the series in Game 6. The best team in baseball, the best Astros team, won it all. But this era of their dynasty would finish, and the last era would begin, aka the end.
This just in, the Astros and general manager James Click are going their separate ways. The team says Click did not renew his contract for the 2023 season.
Since winning the World Series, the team has simply been cursed. Parting ways with James Click has turned out to be a major mistake. Justin Verlander would leave Houston after 5 years. The team has been unwilling to make big moves, and this problem could have just been prevented by presenting James Click with a long-term contract offer. But they chose to offer a 1-year deal instead, raising his salary by $1 million, which caused him to decline the offer. But the biggest 2 factors leading to their downfall has been injury and age, with players unable to stay healthy and others are visibly regressing. In 2023, they were clearly facing a ton of adversity, with Lance McCullers out all season long, Luis Garcia being injured, and no more Verlander, the rotation was drastically cut short, so they would be relying on 3 specific players. The first one was Framber Valdez, who after a breakout 2022 would have sky-high expectations. The second arm was Christian Javier, who also was very good in 2022, but the last one was pitcher Hunter Brown, a major uncertainty for their rotation. He threw very hard, but he looked like an unfinished product in 2023. Ultimately, the offense was good enough to keep them in games, with a top 5 offense in runs scored in all of baseball, propelling them to stay competitive throughout the year and making a trade deadline move that would help save this pitching staff.
Justin Verlander is a Houston Astro.
Verlander was officially back, and the Astros hoped to finally have stability in their rotation. However, he was 40 years old, so we couldn't be expected to save this rotation completely.
Swing and a miss, got him on a high fastball. 13 strikeouts for Justin Verlander.
It also hurt having to give up a former first-rounder in Drew Gilbert. Ultimately, Verlander would finish with a 3.31 ERA in Houston, which was the worst ERA that he has ever had in a season with them. And as for the others, Valdez would disappoint, and while he may have been good statistically, the Astros needed Framber Valdez to be great. And as for Christian Javier, his 2023 would be flat out bad. He regressed from a 2.54 ERA in 2022 to pitching a 4.56 ERA in 2023. And the last man to fail was Hunter Brown, who in 31 starts pitched to a 5.09 ERA. Astros fans were pissed off, with one fan saying, "Hunter Brown fucking sucks," regardless of who was catching for him. While the rotation might not have been very good, the bullpen was at least ranked as the 6th best in baseball, which ended up resulting in a playoff run. And yet again, the Astros defying all odds, making it into the ALCS, but unfortunately losing. It felt like over and over again, year after year, this team was failing towards the end. But after 2023 is truly when things went off the rails completely, with 24-year veteran manager Dusty Baker officially announcing his retirement. No more Dusty Baker would not go over very well for Houston. And as for the front office, they were receiving controversy at so many different levels. Fans were displeased with the lack of free agent signings, as they would lose their closer Hector Neris but upgrade with closer Josh Hader. Outside of that, they stayed very quiet in the offseason, regardless of having a clear need with their starting pitching, as Verlander was 41, Luis Garcia and Lance McCullers were both out until June, yet the team did nothing for their rotation. But it wasn't just the pitching staff, they also needed outfield help with the departure of Michael Brantley. But again, the front office made 0 additions in the outfield in the 2024 offseason. These components would all make for a losing Astros team in 2024. After 20 games, they were 6-14. On April 25th, they were 7-19, which was their worst start since 1969, and only the White Sox had a worse record than them in the AL. However, in May, they would finally begin to pick up some steam, winning 7 games out of 8 from May 12th to May 19th. They're ranked 3rd in their division, only a few games out of first place, but there are many indicators that the Astros should be worried, such as Josh Hader underperforming, the man that they gave 5 years, $95 million to. As in April, he had a 7.45 ERA. In May, he is pitching a 1 ERA. So right now, no one knows what to make of that mega deal. Plus, Alex Bregman has even underperformed in a contract year, currently hitting for a 648 OPS and 169 at-bats. And as of March 23rd, they had yet to give Bregman a contract extension, and they still have to extend star outfielder Kyle Tucker as he is a free agent after 2025. From underperformance to an aging core to expiring deals, the clock is ticking, and it's only a matter of time before the Houston Astros dynasty is over.